We're still going to do the podcast, I think, in the upcoming season. I think we'll probably return to that.
So,
but we've kind of decided we're going to try to do this sort of short form YouTube video thing where we're just going to, whatever the kind of interesting topic that's going on, and we'll talk about it and, see what we think, see what you guys think. Oh, by the way, I'm Curtis. That's Bernie.
that bastard Kurt. Yes, if you guys watched the Mick Schumacher video that I released a few days ago, this is the man behind the voice.
There we go. Yeah, it's in case you couldn't tell or you hadn't listened to the podcast before, or me sound like Kermit the Frog.
And there's probably not too many of you because they didn't do that well. So, but
well, there we go.
We enjoyed it. We do it for ourselves, really.
It really is. Yeah. If we were getting anything out of this, we would simply stop doing it because we're getting nothing out of it.
Yeah, we just like it.
It's there we go. We would be talking about this anyway, so instead we're just posting it. We'll punish you guys with it. It's fine. Yeah. So obviously, the main topic, because it is the off season, Andretti. So it's Michael Andretti has been making noises about coming in for a while now. I'm gonna move this cat probably a dozen times during this video.
It's all right. Mine's probably gonna jump up too.
Hasn't said a goddamn thing for the last hour and a half I've been sitting here, and now he decides he wants to come. It's fine. It's fine. He's a good cat. So Andretti, he's been talking about it for, I don't know, probably about a year.
Seriously, anyway.
Yeah, and obviously, there's a lot of stuff about it during the season. There was various teams that were in favor of it. We were just talking about it before we started recording, that we know that Alpine was for obvious reasons, and McLaren had also said that they were for it. Now it looks like it's basically just Alpine that's in favor of it, even though, that we have the recent news that he has backing from General Motors. And he also has I forget who the other backer is, but it was somebody who's going to pay for his $250 million technology center and pay the $200 million entrance fee. So the Andretti team, which for a while it was looking like, it's kind of a neat idea that he's going to be doing that or whatever. It seems pretty legit. And the more legit it has become, the more that now it's like, oh, the other Formula One teams don't want it to happen.
Yeah, and I've seen some sources that say that Andretti already has a technical advisor lined up. Now, I don't know if this is if Mattia Binotto is even in the question, but I don't know how effective. I mean, he did do a good job at Ferrari before he became team principal and kind of screwed things up. So I think back when he was technical advisor, that was back around when Vettel and Raikkonen were racing for Ferrari and right before Leclerc came in. And the cars seemed to be pretty good back then. I think that was more of a driver fault for why they didn't do well on track. So if it is Binotto, I think they have a pretty good chance of coming in and not being at the back of the grid.
I mean, I think he would probably be, he's got to be the best guy that's available. I can't imagine there's anybody else, at least until he gets signed up and they start doing something that maybe could poach somebody from somewhere. But, I know Ferrari, even this last season, the car was really never the issue. Right. I mean, there was a little reliability issues, but they were really dwarfed by the strategy issues.
Yeah, I don't really know who would even be to blame for that. I don't know if the strategists work independently from the team principal or if the team principal is the ones making the call. So, I mean, everybody put the blame on Binotto.
I'm sure it is one of those, the buck stops with the team principal. I mean, ultimately, it's his fault either for him screwing it up himself or for not doing a better job of hiring somebody who would do a better job. Right. So but so the current noise being made today and probably yesterday is in 2021 the team signed the Concord Agreement, and part of the Concord Agreement was a $200 million anti-dilution fee for any team that wants to join the grid. Basically, you have to pay $200 million to be divided up between the 10 existing teams. And that's how you get onto the grid, is by paying each team $20 million. And that's fine. That's a new thing. It's fine. Except it hasn't even been 2 years since that agreement was signed. Somebody shows up with the $200 million, and now the teams are saying, yeah, $600 or $700 million is probably a more accurate figure, which is the stupidest fucking thing I've ever heard in my life.
Yeah, and the thing is that both Wolf and Horner have come out and said that they don't want to obviously dilute the talent, but you've already got teams like Williams and some races, Haas and Alfa Romeo that are losing or finishing 2 laps behind the leader. So I don't really know how you can dilute it any more than that. I mean, I don't think Andretti is going to come in and do any worse than the backmarker teams already.
No, and it's stupid too, because Toto specifically has been talking for years about, oh, we love competition. Oh, we need more manufacturers. Oh, but yeah, no, we don't want Andretti and General Motors as a new team. So Haas, what was Haas's first year? 2015, 2014, 2015,
yeah,
somewhere in that ballpark.
Yeah.
So I read an interview with Gunther Steiner, and if you guys have listened to the podcast or whatnot, I'm as big a Gunther Steiner fan as exists anywhere. I love the man.
Yeah.
I think he's great. All right. Steiner, when Haas came in, there was no $200 million fee. Right now, at the time, there was only 9 teams on the grid, and that sucked. So, you wanted that, you wanted that 10th team. But in the interview, Steiner said both, if there was a $200 million entrance fee at the time, Haas probably would not exist. And also that the entrance fee should now be higher than $200 million.
Yeah, it's a little hypocritical considering I think that the entrance fee is probably more than what Haas spends on development all year anyway, or spends on the entire budget.
I mean, it had to have been before because, Haas, just with their new sponsorship, is finally going to be able to spend to the $150 million budget.
Right.
So before, when the Concord agreement was being drawn up to be signed, was before the cost cap came in. Right. When teams like Mercedes were spending $400, $500 million a year on these teams. And they thought at that time that $200 million was enough to scare off other teams from joining.
Yeah.
Now they spend $150 million a year. They're on 1/3 what they were spending before. And all of a sudden they want to triple what is effectively the entrance fee. It is the stupidest thing I've ever heard in my life.
I have to wonder what the ulterior motive is behind all these teams saying no. I know teams like McLaren and probably Williams are just trying to stay in line with Mercedes, who's providing them components for their car and stuff like that. But I have to wonder what a team like Red Bull and Mercedes are worried about, because Andretti's not going to come in and challenge for a championship right away. So I don't know if maybe it's just money. I mean, they don't want the profits being split up even more.
To me, I don't think, and I'm giving them the benefit of the doubt a little bit here. I don't think that the teams are as opposed to Andretti coming in as they're letting on. Andretti, you guys know, if you're, you can tell by listening to us, we're both American. All right.
Yeah, if you can
Andretti, barring maybe Dale Earnhardt, Andretti is obviously the most famous name in American motorsports.
Yeah.
I was literally, right before we started talking, I was on a video call with my therapist, right? And I was talking to her about it. And I said,
really? You guys talk about this now?
Well, so I was gauging. This. I said, let me ask you this to my therapist. I said, do you know the name Mario Andretti? And she says, oh yeah. She's like, I don't know who he is, but I know the name.
Yeah.
And that's basically, I think everybody in America must know the name Mario Andretti. You've been driving down 95. Somebody's ripped past you going 80 miles an hour, passing you in the right lane. And what do you say? You say, whoa, slow down there, Mario Andretti. It's just, so it's the most famous name. Obviously, Mario Andretti, 78 world champion. Michael Andretti, what do you write? I think he only did one season in Formula One in 93 with McLaren. And he wasn't very good.
But neither was the car.
And also, by the way, his teammate was Ayrton Senna. So, it's And by the way, and he came from kart, which is a big analog heavy car, and it was active suspension on the McLaren. So it just, I don't think it was a good fit. I think he was talented enough, but I don't think that situation was ever going to work. He never not to get too much off on a tangent, but that's what I do because of ADHD. He kind of half-assed it. He didn't want to live in Europe, so he lived in the United States and he flew out like to every race.
Yeah, that'll make things a little bit more difficult.
So it was a bad idea. He didn't give it 100% the way that he should have. But anyway, so if Formula One is as serious about the American market as they seem to be, because we have 3 races here now, which is great but ridiculous. But you don't want a second American team, and it's an American team with the most famous name in American motorsports, a name that everybody knows. And by the way, they're bringing General Motors, you know, the preeminent American car manufacturer with them.
Mm-hmm.
Like, so my thought is they're not really against Andretti joining. I think it's bargaining. When it comes down to it, you know, FOM is going to want the teams on board with Andretti joining. And the teams, I do think that they want Andretti to join, but just maybe not with the current revenue split between the teams and Liberty.
Yeah.
So to me, I think it's going to be a little bit of push and pull. You know, okay, you guys want Andretti here. We get this percentage now. We want this percentage instead because we're going to be splitting it amongst 11 teams instead of 10, which is probably fair. You know, because you're basically saying, hey, you guys are going to be doing the exact same thing, but for what 10% less.
Yeah. I also have to wonder how much of this is just the European teams being afraid of Andretti coming in.
Goddamn right.
Liberty is an American company.
Yeah.
Liberty Media, and I wonder if this is just politicking a little bit as well, because you've got 3 American Grand Prix now. 2 of them look to be shit. I mean, Miami was absolute shit. Las Vegas looks like it's going to be shit. Coda's the only one, and I love Coda
on a legitimate track. Yeah, Coda's great.
And then you have Liberty Media, who owns I don't know, did they just own the media rights or did they own? I don't know.
I'm unclear. I mean, Liberty owns Formula One, so I mean they're.
Oh, okay. So they own the entity, and then now you have this American powerhouse coming in with another powerhouse in GM, bringing all this money. And now they're going to have 3 home races. I wonder if this is just a power struggle between the European teams and the American teams. And you've already got Haas. I mean, they're technically an American team.
Yeah,
you know, that's a lot of American political power that's in Formula One now in a traditionally European sport.
Yeah, Haas. I love Haas. Car designed by Dallara and engine built by Ferrari with, a German and a Danish driver and an Italian team principal. So, I mean,
Sounds
American
like
is apple
already.
pie.
Yeah, it sounds American already.
Melting pot. That's what we do in the United States.
Mm-hmm.
I think some of it, honestly, I do think that they realize that Andretti is a different animal than Haas.
Yeah.
In a way, it seems like if this was like a lesser effort, they might be more open to it. Because, when Haas came in, they, this is a company that built CNC machines and had like a half stake in some NASCAR teams.
Mm-hmm.
Stuart Haas and CNC machines. And you were fine with that. But now Michael Andretti wants to build, a $250 million technology center, I believe in Indiana, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, with a satellite office in the UK somewhere too.
Yeah, which is smart business. I think it's Formula One. It is largely everything happens in England. And you have General Motors on board. And by the way, and Andretti, I don't know how true this is, but Andretti said something. I texted you this earlier. Said something today that sounded an awful lot like General Motors is going to build an engine.
I mean, it would make sense. I think.
I mean, like, look, I've owned more than my fair share of cars built by the General.
Yeah.
Some better than others.
What was
but,
that black demon you were driving in high school?
No, that would have been a Mustang.
Oh, okay. All right.
I had an 88 IROC. I think probably would have been my only General Motors car that I had in high school. Which is a nice car. I was probably the best car I had in high school.
I just remember you complaining that it only ever got like 9 miles to the gallon or something.
Oh yeah, no, the Mustang was terrible. Yeah, it was really, really bad. And it also had like a 12-gallon fuel tank. So you'd be lucky to get 100 miles to a tank of gas. Yeah, it was bad. It was really, really bad. It was an absolute piece of shit. It was also driven by a high school like junior. So like, what do you want?
Yeah.
But so GM, like I said, say what you want about the cars that they put the engines in, but General Motors builds as good of an engine as anybody on earth,
especially when it comes to the sporting world.
Yeah,
and yeah,
and so the new C8 Corvette, all the expensive Cadillacs, the Camaros and stuff. When they put their mind to it, they build great engines, not necessarily great cars, but that's fine.
Yeah. So, I mean, super powerful engines that only last 3 races. That sounds exactly like F1 anyway.
It sounds like something they could handle.
Yeah.
And I can understand with GM, like, you want to put the Cadillac name on it and you want to, try to elevate Cadillac to the same level as like BMW and Mercedes. You can't be doing that with a rebadged Renault engine.
Yeah.
Not for too long anyway.
Surprising that they went with Cadillac. I assume they would have gone with like, I don't know, one of their other sports brands.
So the only other choice would have been Chevrolet.
Yeah, that's what I was expecting.
But they're not trying to have the same world presence with Chevrolet that they are with Cadillac. This, I think, is a thing by General Motors specifically about Cadillac. It's Cadillac's name on their sports car efforts as well. Aside from the Corvette, but their new LMDH hypercar, it's a Cadillac. And by the way, there's only, as near as I can tell, I looked at the entry lists for the 24 Hours of Daytona, and I looked at the entry lists for the WEC, endurance season. And there's only 2 manufacturers that are competing in both. All right. And that's Porsche and Cadillac. So
surprising.
Ferrari, they're in WEC, they're not in IMSA. BMW, they're in IMSA, but they're not in WEC. Acura, IMSA, not in WEC. Toyota, Glickenhaus, what's the other team? Used to be by Coles, Van Wall, the Van Wall team. I don't even know what the hell that is.
I've never even heard of them.
Right, yeah. They used to be by Coles Racing. I don't know. So it's they basically just made like a street car of an LMP2. I don't know. So, but all those manufacturers are not yet competing in both, but Cadillac is, because that's what General Motors is trying to do with Cadillac. Cadillac has been in the kind of near luxury hellhole for 40 years now, since they fell out of favor sometime in the 80s, and they kind of had a little renaissance in the early 2000s with the first CTS and stuff. And they sort of fell off again a little bit. So they have work to do, and they think that making the brand more palatable to Europe is the way to do it, and you do that through Formula One and through WEC.
Yeah, if you're gonna choose a racing series to try and get your name out into Europe, Formula One is the only real option to go with.
Yeah, for sure. And so if you have General Motors coming in and they're going to build an engine, now all of a sudden you have 5 power unit manufacturers. We haven't even talked about that. Not getting too far off track, but Ford is in talks with Red Bull, and Porsche is still lurking around somewhere. Yeah. You could conceivably end up with 6, maybe 7 power unit manufacturers, which would be great.
I think it can only be good for the sport. I mean, right now, how many are there? 4?
4.
And one of them is only used by one team.
Yeah, Renault only supplies themselves. Yeah. So you got Mercedes is supplying 8 engines every race to their 4 teams. They're getting entirely too much data. These teams are way too good at this. You need more manufacturers. You need more shitty race cars. You do. You need these things to actually break and to make like an element of surprise about it, I guess. Yeah. So, but with Andrew, it's weird to me. And I really do think with the teams, I think it's more of a bargaining chip than anything, where they're, we can't just come out and say that we're okay with them coming in, because then we don't get anything out of it.
Yeah.
So they have to do the Otmar, like we're going to be like cartoon villains. We're going to sound like absolute dickheads. And Michael Andretti doesn't, I don't know if he doesn't seem to get that, or if he just really doesn't give a shit, which I would respect the hell out of, because he's really been like, no, these guys suck. Just we're coming in, and and that's that.
I mean, if you look at the fan response when the news came out,
all positive.
It was really hard to find a negative comment in
from the fans. I don't think that there's any downside from our point of view.
No, like you said, more cars, more engines.
Yeah, it's 22 cars on the. I think 22, 24 is probably. I don't know that I would want more than 24 cars on the grid.
No, but because I think like F3 has like 30 plus cars on the grid. And
30 would be entirely too many. Then you're getting almost towards NASCAR numbers.
Yeah,
and like they are correct in that one of F1's strengths is its exclusivity. There's 10 teams, there are 20 drivers. That's all you need to know, right?
Yeah.
So if it's 11 teams, 22 drivers, can handle that. 12 teams, 24 drivers, that's fine. You start getting up closer to 30, you're talking about an IndyCar field, which, like, dude, I couldn't tell you half the IndyCar field. I don't know any of them.
Yeah, I think adding 2 or 4 more seats on the grid will be good anyways, just because there's so many F2 drivers coming up that, I mean, if you look at last year, I think Joe Guan Yu was the only driver that came up.
Yeah, he's the only rookie.
Yeah, and this year, only one more, just Logan Sargent.
Because, for the most part, these drivers now, by the time they get to Formula One, they're fairly seasoned.
Yeah.
And so they're pretty good. So they tend to hang around for a while. There's no like transients.
Mm-hmm.
Guys hang, I guess aside from the aforementioned Mick Schumacher, who
or Nikita Mazepin,
which
I mean, we knew
one
that
season too many.
As soon as the money was gone, he was gone. So
no. They didn't have any reason. But just guys hang around. And if there's only 20 seats and you have, you still had, at least until this season, you had Hamilton, Vettel, and Alonso all still on the grid.
Yeah.
You had Kimi up until the year before,
mm-hmm.
So these guys who get, like, things change. So, I mean, Lewis Hamilton was he 37, 38, somewhere in that ballpark.
40 around right now.
And he's still clearly at his peak. He's
great.
Oh,
yeah.
Right. He has not lost a step, except maybe in racing with Max. They haven't quite figured that out yet. But so these guys can hang around. Like, why would you jettison Lewis Hamilton for a young guy? Like,
yeah, even if it's a guy like Piastri, it's just an unknown.
Yeah, I do.
Unknown
you could say,
through.
Would you rather have 2 years of Hamilton or 7 years of Piastri? I'm sorry, dude. I'm gonna take my 2 more years of Lewis Hamilton.
Right. Yeah.
I know what I'm getting from Lewis Hamilton.
And that's one of the downsides of having only 20 seats is you have these guys that stick around for 15 plus years. Some of them never make it out of the midfield pack,
No. So basically what we're trying to say here, we're both, as I think most people watching this will be, we're in favor of Andretti joining the grid.
Mm-hmm.
I don't see a downside. I think that they're taking it serious as a heart attack. I'm like, nobody just comes into Formula One and wins right away, but I think that they're going to give it at least as good of an effort as Aston Martin is seeming to do right now. They're going to throw a lot of money at it. They're going to make an attempt.
Yeah, and Aston Martin closed out the second half of the season a little bit better than they started off. Yeah, and I can't see Andretti coming in with the backing of GM and doing any worse than like Williams. I don't know. What is their time frame? When are they looking to come in?
2025, I believe.
Oh, so right before the engine regs change.
If they were approved right away, they could maybe get in for 2024. But if they got him for 2024 and they could run the Renault for 2 years, and then maybe GM would have an engine ready for 2026. I don't know. But that is my understanding, is that they're trying to come in for 2025.
Okay. I mean, I'm all for it. Anything to get more cars on the track. I've been saying this for years now. I think 20 cars is just, especially when you look at the disparity,
It's
um,
sparse.
yeah, between some of the cars, especially in the backfield or the back markers in the midfield. It's just anything to spice up a little bit more competition throughout the grid is okay in my book.
Yeah, I agree. And I mean, it's interesting with the regulations and stuff. I don't know. I almost would rather see them at this point, like stay with the super strict aero regulations, maybe open up the mechanical stuff a bit. I said if Porsche wants to come in and run a V4, well, God bless them, let them do it.
Let them try.
I mean, in the they make it work in the WEC with balance of performance and stuff. You have V8s competing with flat sixes and V12s or God knows what else, and they make it work.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. I'm not too worried about that, but I think Andretti coming in is just I think it's just a positive across the board. It's more, more seats, more competition, hopefully more engine manufacturers. It's just it's a good, and hopefully the teams will come around on that.
You think they'll finally get in?
Yeah, I think it's gonna end up that way.
Yeah. Okay.
So I just got a thing saying that my recording stopped. So hopefully yours is still going.
Yeah, mine's is still going. All right.
All right, well, good times. But anyway, guys, I think that's probably about it for this. I think we probably even ran this a little bit longer than we wanted to.
Yeah, we didn't want to make it too long.
No, I was hoping for 15 minutes, but honestly, I can't shut the fuck up. So
it's all right. You know more about Andretti than I do, and I wasn't expecting to input much anyway. So
no, it's all right. Like I said, I didn't think the history of it was super important. So I don't know, guys. If anything else comes up soon, we'll pop in. We'll talk about it for a couple minutes, and then we'll go away.
Yeah, but hopefully we'll be doing some more of these, and I'll still be posting up some more game videos. So
there we go.
Stick around and check it out.
Good times. All right, man. We will. We'll talk to you guys soon.
All right.
Later.